I am so grateful that you are on the show today.
Well, gosh, I'm grateful to be asked. I think you're doing great work, and uh, this minefield of trying to figure out where to go to college is something for students and their parents, and of course I did it for 40 years at least with basketball players, and that's all they are, basketball players. Hopefully, trying to figure out the best school for them to go to.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's just, and before we even dive into anything, I want to acknowledge something that kind of came out a couple of weeks ago with you being named John Wooden Legends of Coaching Award. And that is huge. So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you, Sarah. That was pretty overwhelming because anybody that grew up when I grew up, then UCLA basketball was winning every single national championship. And more than that, Coach Wooden was just setting an example of how to go about the business of coaching with the mild mannered, uh, the character issues that he was always discussing, his pyramid of success. Um, I read his book, They Call Me Coach. I worked his basketball camp when I was in college. I went all the way out to LA and worked a week of his camp. So that was very meaningful. Thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah, well, we're just so proud of you too for everything that you accomplished. And even my short time at Belmont, I got to see you interact with the players and do your thing as a coach. And you're one of the best of the best. And so as we like dive into really some of these conversations that parents want to know is, when you were recruiting and you were having conversations with families, what were some of those qualities you were looking for in these players?
Well, I think you mentioned families, and I think it was helpful to us when we knew that the young man we were recruiting was getting good parental guidance. Of course, we can say that about our world today. Good parental guidance goes a long way,
Yeah.
and when it's lacking, you can tell. And so, um, I was fortunate. Belmont's a very good school academically. Some coaches think that's a hindrance, and I thought it was a positive. And we were able to recruit the kind of young men that really wanted to get an education and get their degree, and their parents wanted them to. And basketball oftentimes was first on their minds, but the rest of it was real important too. So I think I think that we, first of all, as a basketball coach, you can't just go, down on Belmont Boulevard and see a nice looking kid and find out he's a good guy and recruit him. He's got to be a basketball player that you think can continue to improve your program. But there's a lot to that probably doesn't fit this podcast, but it's about finding guys with the skills that you need based on the way that you play the game. And so the basketball side had to be a fit for us and hopefully for him. And we felt like, but real importantly, I wanted a basketball recruit to choose Belmont just like he would if he wasn't even a basketball player. He thought this was the kind of school that he wanted to go to. And of course, we see thousands of transfers now these days. And a lot of it is, I think, is because um, they're thinking only about the level of athletics that they can go to and not thinking about uh, is this place a fit socially, academically, athletically. They just go and they get sold too. I mean, there's too many coaches that treat this just like they were selling cars or furniture or windows or you name it,
Right.
and I never thought that was the right way to go about it.
Well, and I love that you bring that up because, we talk a lot about on the show is when we're on these recruiting visits, when we're meeting with coaches, we want to weigh our pros and our cons, but we like need to go with our gut. We like as students, as parents, like you are going to know where you belong. And that's so important to have those conversations going through this process.
No, I think you're exactly right. You can, I saw people try to figure this thing out every which way you could do it. And one easy way is to just put pros and cons down on a legal pad and pluses and minuses or whatever you want to talk about. And that is all well and good, but man, it's, I heard somebody describe it one time. when they walked into the student center and sat down, does this feel like a place I can go between my classes and study or meet with my friends? Or, you just got to feel like it's the right place for you. And that's not a decision that you make scholastically or intellectually is the word I'm looking for. It is a feeling, a gut feeling. And it's usually a little more right than the intellectual feeling sometimes.
Oh, I agree with that too, because you could have all the right things, but a conversation may not have gone the way that you thought it should, or, something kind of feels icky about the situation. You've got to listen to those intuitions. And for parents and students alike, when they're going through this, they've got to really work at it together.
Yeah, I think it's important to see how genuine the people are that you're talking to on your visit, and how much they seem to really care about whether you're going to make a good decision or not. I took my daughter, who's now 35 or 36, and to a school in Boston. That's as far as I'll go, but it was you couldn't get anybody to meet with you about the area that she was interested in. And she had looked it up and researched it, and it had a great school for what she wanted to do. But, I was coming from Belmont where any faculty member would meet with a student that wanted to meet with them to decide whether they want to major in that. And we couldn't even see a faculty member. So that one was crossed off the list pretty quick. And I do think that in this whole process, just trying to get an idea from the people that you're talking to, any question, whether it's an athletic recruitment or an academic one, or when you're trying to figure out to go to school, it's about you, and any question is okay. And students or parents don't need to be scared to ask them. I didn't like hard questions, but I appreciated them because I knew they were trying to get and find the right place to go to school.
Yeah. So talk about that a little bit, when parents are asking these questions, or even students as they're having conversations with coaches, what are some of those key questions that you kind of would have hoped to hear as a coach on the other side?
That is a good one. I think it would be, for me, I would want to know how they felt about the things away from the basketball floor. What's important to you and the kind of kids that you recruit? What kind of retention rate do you have? Are kids transferring out, or are they staying there? The simple one is, are they graduating? But schools can kind of fiddle around with that number and make it sound pretty good no matter what. They can put a lot of all the guys that stayed this many years and did this and did that, they all graduated. But I think just trying to find out from the coaching staff and from the academic support people at the school whether or not they're going to get there and they're going to get their degree and they can do it legitimately. It wouldn't be a second tier thing to the basketball program. It would be really why they're there. That's the kind of questions I wanted to hear from them. Certainly the ones about basketball were fair. How do you see him fitting in, and does his skills fit your system, and why do you want him on your team? But so many times I got almost no questions, and that's not the right answer. They need to go prepared to ask some questions and be unafraid to be unintimidated by the process.
Oh, that's really good. And I like how you talked a little bit too about like the academic side of things, asking the academic support staff questions. And, we have that conversation here on the show of saying, like, we've got to think outside of just having conversations with the coaching staff, because the support staff at that institution, wherever it is just as important as the coaching staff.
Yeah. The academic support for sure, but also just the rest of the people, the training staff. Meet with as many people as you can meet with. And if it's an athletic recruitment situation, meet with as many of the players on the team. You know what? Coaches, I can honestly say we didn't try this, but coaches can't get players to lie about how they feel about everything. They just can't. And the more you talk to Some schools you go to, they're going to send their best kid out to be your host every single time they have somebody in. And we would encourage the guys when they were coming to, well, it was kind of the other way around. We encouraged our team to all be involved in the recruitment process of a player, and not just sticking with the one or two that presented the best face of our program.
Right. Yeah. I think that's really wise too, thinking of, and I'm thinking it more from like a team perspective, because if you only need one or two players on that team, how do you get a big picture of what the team atmosphere is like?
You don't. That should be a giveaway, really, that they're hiding some people, and there's some things they don't want you to know. And so, no, I think hey, the players were our best asset in recruiting. They honestly were, and we also had some great academic support folks that really cared and would tell them the truth about what it was like. The coaching staff has got an agenda. They're trying to win basketball games and trying to recruit the best players to do it. And the rest of the people want the team to do well, but you're going to get straighter answers from outside of that in most cases. I'd like to think we were a little different, but in most cases, I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that, because, kids would ask me questions in our academic conversations or recruiting visits that they wouldn't ask coaches.
Sure.
And so I think that really opened the door, because they felt comfortable knowing that I wasn't making the decision on playing time. Yeah. I was helping them think outside, okay, what's going to happen after the sport is over?
Yeah. And so I do think that's important for folks to know, particularly in athletic recruitment, where you got several people that are trying to get you there, and you don't know who to believe. Another thing I would add to the whole process, and everybody has their own way of recruiting, but I just I didn't put any false deadlines on decisions. I tried to be, our whole staff was 100% transparent about where we were in the recruiting process. If you were the only one we'd offer a scholarship to, we would tell you. If we'd offered 3 for your position and you were the third guy we offered, we'd tell you that. If we liked another guy better, this is the hardest part. If we liked another guy better than you and he hadn't decided yet, you'd say, we're going to wait for a while on this other guy. I mean, that may make you lose somebody, but I do think the honest approach also is appreciated by the parents, probably more so than even the player. And so I think coaches that say, I need your decision by Monday after a weekend visit, or I want you to make it right now, we're going to offer it to somebody else. Unless that's absolutely true, that'd be a warning signal. That'd be a red light to me if I was on the other end of it.
Oh, I completely agree, because again, we're going back to your student, or if you're listening and you're a student, you're making this decision that could be for the next 4 to 5 years of your life. And having to make that decision within a 24-hour turnaround, like I don't know of a lot of people who have even done that.
Well, not only the next 4 or 5 years, really the rest of your life, because your years in college, I mean, I don't know the numbers, but you're likely to meet the person you're going to marry. You may decide to stay in that town where the school is, and all that stuff changes your life. You don't know right now what's going to happen tomorrow, and I don't either. And the decisions you have to make, that's one of the very most important ones. Marriage is probably right up there with it, maybe more so, but you know what I mean? It's just too important. I just always felt like that it was way more important to the young man that we were recruiting, the decision being made, than it was to our basketball program. Even with the greatest players we were trying to get, I tried to keep that in mind. I told them that, I meant it, and they need to understand that. And so if they say, "Oh, we have to know by Monday," say, "Well, why, Coach? Why do we need to know by Monday? Or why do I need to tell you before I leave today?" Well, because I'm going to offer your scholarship to somebody else. Well, go ahead and offer it then. And if he takes it, I'm just out. But I need longer than that to go home. I wanted them to go home from our campus and think about the visit. And if they wanted to call me back after that and say they're coming, that's great. I did have 2 or 3 that absolutely wanted to take it on the visit. I mean, and at some point you got to say that's okay too, because it came from them.
Right. Right.
But it wasn't, it was never presented that way.
Yeah. Oh, that's such great advice too, thinking, because I mean, I know I've been in those recruiting meetings and it's information overload at its best when you're on those trips, and, having that time to process for both parents and students. And, sometimes parents aren't able to come. Maybe it's because of work or something comes up and the students by themselves. It's so important to take that back home and have that conversation with your parents if you're on a trip by yourself.
And parents should know that it's totally good to follow that up with a phone call and ask all the questions you want to at that point. Here's what Johnny said about the visit, and why do you need to know something about Tuesday? And he said this or he said that. And because the young man or woman that's there, whether it's athletics or not, they are going to be a vast majority of the time intimidated in this process and be scared to ask questions. All of us have done that. I mean, I'm scared to ask questions when I'm going to go buy a car. I don't, because I am so far behind the bar on that it'll sound really stupid.
Yeah.
Does it have 4 wheels? Or does
right. Right, with the steering wheel attached? Like, how does this process work?
They come with it. Okay.
Yeah, but I think that analogy is so important because we do sometimes fear takes over when we think, oh, I'm going to make the wrong decision, or what if I ask a question that now takes me off of their list?
Right. That's a good point.
Like I kind of feel, and I'm thinking more from a parent's perspective, what if, like, if I ask a question and now they say, oh, we don't want to deal with that.
Yep.
That's some of the fear part of it too.
That would have to be, that kind of question would somehow have to be out of bounds in some way, it seems to me. I understand the part about them thinking, well, this guy's a little pushy, but if a coach is going to react that way, if it's an athletic thing again, then you're probably not in the right place.
Yeah. Oh, and I think that's just a telltale sign of the process and the experience that you're having.
Yeah. I mean, coaches who've got 100-to-1 advantage on the recruit if this is a tough recruiting situation, they've been through it hundreds or thousands of times, and this kid's been through it once or 3 or 4 or 5. It's not a fair fight.
Right. And, that's something I always tell the students I work with. And even when I was at the collegiate level working, I said, whatever issue that you're coming with me academically or anything that's happening in your life, I can guarantee you I've already heard it. And there's a process for it, or there's questions we can ask to get through it. So, you just need to be upfront and honest and transparent. So, like, we know what to do if it's our next step.
Yep. You're right. No, that's great. That's where what you're doing is so valuable to folks. And I'm sure a lot of people don't rely on something like that. So, sometimes you get parents that played athletics in college and they've been through this. And so they're a little bit ahead of the game when it comes to that. But you also get a lot that are just excited that their kid is being recruited, and they are afraid to maybe ask some questions that they need to be asking.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Well, Coach, the podcast is called Confessions from the Sidelines. So I would love, you have 42 years of experience standing on the sidelines. So I want to know, what is your favorite memory?
That's 42 is oh, there's a lot of them, and I was lucky to have a few. And it would be, I guess, if you had to say one, it was when we were able to beat our neighborhood rival Lipscomb in the 2006 Atlantic Sun Championship game in Johnson City, because it gave us our first trip to the NCAA tournament. And that was a long climb to get there when we went from NAIA to there. But I could just as easily tell you the same thing when we were in the NAI, the first time that we won to go to the NAI national tournament, and that's another thing we haven't talked about, but levels. And I heard some of your conversation with Coach Rick, and he said the same thing. Once you're there, that's your big time. Okay. And it doesn't matter if it's junior college or NAI or Division 2, 3, or 1, or playing football in the SEC. It's different experiences, but it matters just as much to you. In that case, when we made the national tournament for the first time in NAI, that was a huge deal. And there are certain milestone wins in anybody's coaching career, and certainly being able to win games at North Carolina and at UCLA. I mean, who would have ever thought? Certainly not me. So there was a bunch of good ones, but what else is absolutely true, and that is the players win the games. And I think I always tried to make sure that our players came first in discussions. That's the way I put them first in the media guide. I put them on the radio when we won, kept them off when they lost, and took all the tough questions. But the players have gotten me those things that we're talking about, those moments and that award and those sort of things. And I was lucky to be at Belmont and be able to recruit the kind of kids that I could recruit.
Yeah. Oh, Belmont is a special place. I can say that as a graduate of Belmont University. And I'm so thankful that you just gave us really good words of advice for parents.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate what you're doing and a chance to be on and talk a little bit. It's good to talk to you again.
Yes, it sure is. Thank you so much.
Thank you.